Hi, hello. My name is Robbie, and I'm your local plant enthusiast and artist, and I am here to talk to you guys about Chasmanthium latifolium. What? Let me explain. A quick thank you for tuning in to Situ-ations, the weekly art and science show where I introduce you to a plant native to the Blackland Prairie, followed by a painting demo. This is week one and our first plant, so make sure to leave a comment so I know what you think. Alright, let's get back to it. When talking about a particular plant, especially to a wide audience, we want to make sure that we're talking about the same plant. If I start talking to you about bluebells, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. But if you search online for bluebells, the first result shows you this plant here, Hyacinthoides non-scripta, which we call bluebells, but I'm in Texas, so I'm looking at a completely different plant called Eustoma russelinium, or, also called bluebells. So to fix this issue, we refer to organisms by their scientific name. You won't know the scientific name of everything, and that's okay. The information is pretty easy to find online when you need to use it, though sometimes the scientific names can actually aid in your identification of a plant. Scientific names use binomial nomenclature, which translates to two-part naming system. The words used are usually based in Latin and Greek, so if you pick up some of the Latin, you can understand what is being described. Take the bur oak, or Quercus macrocarpa. Quercus is Latin for oak, while macrocarpa comes from two different Greek words. Macros meaning big, and carpos meaning fruit. So it would lead us to believe that this is an oak tree with large fruit. And, well, look at the size of the fruit. So the names do have some meaning, and that can help you remember them in certain instances. Not all scientific names are descriptive. Sometimes they indicate who first described a species or reference something in pop culture. If you want me to go in depth on this topic, leave a comment below. Other names given to a plant aren't wrong. We call them common names. So for Chasmanthium latifolium, we call them inland sea oats, northern sea oats, or even fish on a fishing pole. There are numerous common names for pretty much everything. So what's so interesting about this plant? This native perennial clump-forming grass is well known by people for its ornamental value. The seed heads are very attractive spikelets with a small seed inside, aside from maybe the last one or two oats on the spikelets, which are sometimes empty. Right now, these plants are a beautiful tawny color with seed heads mostly intact. As we go through the winter, you'll see less and less seeds as critters partake in the wild food source. You'll also notice there's new growth at the base of the plant, with blue-green leaves poking through despite the cold. Come springtime, these leaves will have replaced the old thatch and new, bright green seed heads will emerge. Inland sea oats aren't just a pretty face. The plant thrives in damp and shaded areas, making riparian areas an ideal location. The roots of inland sea oats help stabilize the soil along river banks due to their fibrous but shallow root systems. The plant can spread pretty quickly, as it spreads by both seed and by rhizome. The Cocopa Nation have historically used inland sea oats as a food source, processing and grinding the oats into a flour used for dough. The seeds of this plant are also consumed by birds and other wildlife. If you want to plant this in your garden, consider a site with partial shade, though inland sea oats can be planted in full sun. They do tend to get a bit scorched under the Texas sun. Alright, time for the painting. This painting really wore me down. I started off with a canvas that was way too large, and I typically go for wooden canvases, but I didn't have anything suitable. I ended up scrapping this larger canvas.
I'll probably revisit it sometime, or I might just reuse it for another painting. I liked the composition of this initially, but there is a lot of negative space in between the plants, and that isn't very true to life. The grass grows in stands generally, so it's connected by underground rhizomes and isn't so separate usually. I decided to go ahead and get a primed wood panel canvas, about 8 by 8 inches. I started with a light wash of a paint mixed with a little bit of solvent. It wasn't adhering to the canvas at all. I suspect that the gesso on it might have been the issue. I'm used to prepping my canvases with sizing and then a couple layers of gesso on top. The gesso I use has a little bit of texture to it, and this one was really smooth, so it wasn't adhering how I expected it to. I knew I wanted to keep a cool colored background, but the blue on my palette was much too transparent to accomplish this while painting a la prima, or painting in one sitting. This is a wet on wet technique, usually done in oils. I wanted the colors and the values to both contrast really well, so I did end up going over the background with a more opaque blue mixed in with my colors. Ultimately, I would have liked to capture more detail, but I think that's going to come with getting faster at this particular painting technique. So ultimately, I don't think that this painting is a failure. A painting can be successful simply if it taught me or someone else something. I think both in science and art, we do need to be able to give a go at something and be given the grace to fail. Fear of making mistakes often holds us back from taking on challenges. My goal is to show you the beauty of the Blackland Prairie so that you'll understand that these plant communities that are your neighbors are here and they're worth protecting. You can't care about what you don't know or what you don't understand. So let's learn together and see if we can spark some conservation efforts along the way. If you want to support my mission in educating people about the plants of the Blackland Prairie, consider heading over to my Patreon. Each month, patrons in the Mail Club will get sent one print at no additional cost, voted on by the patrons at the end of the month. What do you want to see me cover next? Leave a comment below. Like, comment, and subscribe to keep up with the project, and happy painting, happy planting, and I'll see you later.